Welcome back to episode 2 of Light Society. Thank you for joining us this week. We hope to have gotten one out last week. We were not able to, just adjusting to new schedules and now trying to include a podcast in our life and just making new adjustments. But hopefully we'll have more to come and more consistently. Today we want to talk a little bit about further elaborating on what we talked about last week about making a difference in society and kind of like being led to be more than just people who are quiet, but be led to be people who are standing on truth and people who are leading others and to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And we feel a big part of that is also looking at ourselves and looking at society and seeing, and asking the question, are we part of the problem or are we part of the solution? And I know with so many different things, and this goes into businesses, it goes into, education, this goes into so many things as far as, are you feeling the problem or are you feeling the solution?
Right.
So I don't know if you want to take on a couple points of things that come to your mind.
Sure, yeah.
About that.
So one of the biggest problems nowadays that I've seen in my own life and people's lives around me and media and everything else is the emasculation of man, and the lack of leadership in the home for everybody, especially in our generation.
Yeah.
Even though he's a little bit older than me and kind of an old fart, but
same generation
nonetheless. But the biggest thing is, in my opinion, is how boys and girls are raised by their parents. Mm-hmm. Namely, fathers raising their sons and how to be good men, how to be a good leader,
or even daughters raising their daughters and what to expect from men in their future.
Absolutely. Give huge credit to my father-in-law raising such a wonderful lady that I married, and it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great point. To that very point, her father treated her mother like my wife wanted to be treated when she was married. Mm-hmm. And that was prime example of leading by example. So I tip my hat to you, sir. You know who you are. But going back to boys and men, nowadays there's just too many passive parents, passive fathers, absent fathers. I don't want to get into how we solve that. There's a whole another podcast for that, I'm a new father. You're going to be a father to be at some point here soon. And I'll keep, I'll keep putting a good word in for him. I give him a hard time every time. But I'm not a subject matter expert in this, but it's very sad and disheartening nowadays that you see men in our age group or younger, and I
don't think you need to be a subject matter expert in this to see whether something's working or not working. I mean, we could look back at our parents' generation and the generation before them, and compare to our generation and see certain things that worked and things that didn't. Yeah, like I know. Right. For me and my wife, we're gonna look at the failure points of our parents, how they raised us, and the failure points of how they were raised, and all the good spots. Because sometimes you kind of throw out the whole thing rather than, sometimes like you may have, let's say food, for instance, right? You find something that maybe looks like it's a little older, and rather than just throwing the whole thing away because maybe the whole thing's affected by it, you get rid of the part that's bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that could be with anything that breaks, anything that's, you may have one part broken on a vehicle. It doesn't mean you throw the whole thing away. You get, now in today's society, they sometimes do that.
Yeah.
But like, just you fix or remove the damaged part and keep everything else that worked. Like, for instance, we have a lot of people in our generation, our younger generation, that don't really feel like working. And part of that is attributed to the generation before us wanting us to not have to work as hard as they did, you know? But that now has, and I understand the idea behind it, because we all want a better life. Good parents, I shouldn't say we all, good parents, want
Yes.
a better life for their kids and for their kids' kids. But sometimes a better life isn't always an easier life, because realistically, easy lives don't make better lives.
Yep.
They just make comfortable people.
Yep.
And that eventually leads to uncomfortable people. I mean, just like that quote, and I'm trying to nail it right the first time. And I love this quote. It's, strong men, hard times create strong men create good times, and good times create weak men.
And
Right
weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And the circle continues.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. Right now is the weak time.
Yeah.
This is the generation that in our age group, the typical man or male boy, not really a man, is a weak man. Spineless for the most part, just lily-livered, doesn't stand up for what he believes in, lets everyone just roll right over him. Lazy.
Or on the other extreme, cowardly.
Yep.
Is super aggressive towards everyone.
Or that too, yeah.
Because you get a lot of that in our culture too, where you have these young people going berserk at all these, anti-life things, or all these, I'm trying to think of all the
whatever
other
it might be.
all these weird, the trans movements, all these people,
Yeah.
very aggressive, or you can't have a difference of opinion with them because
Right.
they're too cowardly to have an actual conversation, because they believe what they think.
Right.
They believe what they say.
Yeah.
But instead, they can't defend themselves. They realize that, but they want to justify it by overpowering you in conversation, and or turn to violence because they can't actually have a civil discourse.
In a nutshell, that is the definition of toxic masculinity. That's nowadays what all the people are screaming about. Being a man is not toxic.
No.
Being a good man, a real good man, is not being toxic.
Well, it's toxic, but toxic to evil.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the typical nowadays,
typical way.
yeah. The toxic masculinity is the man who beats his wife and who treats his children horribly. And not even if it's just a single man. He
Treats himself horribly.
treats himself horribly, treats everyone around him horribly, and is just uber aggressive. And there's a very fine line. And it's not easy sometimes to do everything the right way. It's impossible to do everything right. But that the bringing it back is the main problem is in the home. The main problem starts with the men and the boys who are being raised by fathers that aren't good leaders,
Yeah.
that are lost and wandering, and they might have seen something from their father that they didn't like, and they may have just completely polar opposite. Well, I'm never going to do anything like that, so I'm just going to let everyone roll over me.
Yeah.
But like you said, that's a great way to do it, is to take the good and keep it, and take the bad, throw it out, and change it.
Yeah.
That's the
I mean, I think I saw something today. It was about a good leader. A good leader is always responsible.
Yep.
It's as in, like, not only does he always take responsibility, but he is responsible for the outcome of the situations he's over.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
look at the same thing. It's been that way since the beginning.
Yep.
Adam and Eve. Adam was given the instruction to not eat from the tree, right? From that particular tree. And what did he do? Apparently, Eve ate from it. I'm sure that she was instructed by Adam or told, because she knew she wasn't supposed to. Because even when the devil tried to entice her, she mentioned that she wasn't supposed to. She knew. But from that point on, you could always see she wasn't the one who was said to have done the wrong. It was Adam. It was the fall through man.
Yep.
Men were given a position of leadership.
Yep.
We're always given that position since the beginning. And with that position comes, with great power comes great responsibility,
Yep.
The cliche quote that everyone knows. But, but
Could
it
be
is
more
true.
Yeah.
It's true, though.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, we're always raised, I mean, not everybody's raised this way, but, boys are raised even with dating relationships. You're responsible for the outcome of this relationship. Same thing in the workplace environment. You're responsible for your project if you're the manager of it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Someone else may have screwed up, but you're responsible for how you take care of it and how you manage it.
Yep.
Or for allowing the opportunity for that screw up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It sounds kind of like, I'm almost sounding like I agree with the agenda that's out there of against men, because to a degree, a lot of it's men's fault.
Most
We're
of it.
kind of at fault for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because women who don't respect themselves is a lot of times because men don't show women the proper respect in the ways that they do well. You know what I mean? So you can kind of argue, is it the chicken or the egg? Well, if all this issues with women trying to get bad attention from men, you know, sexualizing themselves and all these things, if men never fed into that, they wouldn't be doing it for the most part.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that industry, they wouldn't, like, if you don't buy, you know, let's say, that's like the whole issue with selling like ivory in different countries. Like, if you don't buy ivory, you're not funding the industry.
Right.
They won't go and shoot elephants and kill them for their ivory because there's no business there. You know what I mean?
Well, the problem is it's such a prominent business.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic, though.
Yeah.
Because it's so enticing for a man to see all that. It's like,
Yeah.
because we're visual. Like, oh, dang.
But yet again, if you look at anywhere, even if you look at the home situation, most of the time, I wouldn't say it's men's fault, but men are highly responsible because
Mostly responsible.
what are the leadership position we're
Yes.
taking? Because
Yes.
leadership in the home isn't just I provide. It isn't just the old-fashioned thought process of, you know, wife takes care of the kids, I come home and discipline them. You know what I mean? You do want to set that respect level for authority, but at the same time, too, it's like, you know, fathers need to be involved with being the spiritual leaders of their home. You know, being the other, not just wife takes care of the kids, I take care of the provisions. You know what I mean? It's like, well, no, you know, your job is the provisions, but also you're still half parenting your kids with your wife because there always needs to be that male figure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, statistically, I don't know the exact statistics, but I know statistically speaking, fatherless homes lead to more kids in prison, lead to higher crime rate, and lead to all these damaging issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not to say that motherless homes won't have similar effects, but it's more prominent with a male figure
yeah.
gone from the home.
Because they're supposed to be the leaders.
Yeah.
That's what we're
And the
made
kids
for.
the people who do most of the crime are typically men. So boys who don't have dads to show them the right thing, they are going to find a leader. They're going to find someone to model
Somebody.
after.
Yep.
And if it's not you, it's somebody else.
Yep.
And you don't always get to choose who that somebody else is.
Nope.
Especially if you're not present.
Yep.
You
You'll
know,
never
won't
get
have
to
that.
choose if you're not
Yeah.
present. Yeah.
So if you're present, then you're automatically at least giving yourself the best shot at role number one.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't start when they're 12 or 14. It starts from the beginning.
Yep.
You know?
Little eyes are always watching.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got a little one. And he is always watching.
Yeah.
Makes you think twice.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you think twice how you shut the door if you're upset. Makes you think twice about, you know,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
Well, if you're yelling at your kids all the time, they're only going to be used to that form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's going to become normal communication, and they won't know what it is to have a proper conversation with somebody. And that's even when they're little.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Certainly. Well, what's besides that sounds so bad.
Parenting.
Besides weak men and
Yeah.
parenting in our world, what's another way that we could be? Well, we didn't really answer our own question. That was kind of long-winded, but it was good. It was necessary. But it was, how are we a part of the problem or the solution of major societal issues?
Well, I guess first we got to narrow down what we see as
Right.
key factors in societal issues or it being torn down. For me, I think it's the men's role in society.
Mm-hmm.
All the targets all the agenda targets.
Yes.
I see as the right. So men's responsibility or men's toxic masculinity being attacked.
Yes.
You have education being attacked.
Mm-hmm. Big time. Well,
It's one of the most important things.
it is. It's very important.
You know, that's why you see all these people come out of these colleges all liberal thinking. Just as adults getting these forms of education. Imagine when you're a kid getting that education from the beginning.
Yep.
You know,
Oh, we're not gonna get on that tangent.
we'll get on that.
We'll do that another time. Another podcast.
But even like, and also something that everyone contributes to every single day, economically.
Yep.
Where are we choosing to buy our products? If we really want to have a country that's self-sustaining, and not, you know, at the hands of another country, then you need to have, in a sense, financial independence. You need to be able to have, different businesses providing a product, not just isolating things to be under the power of one person. Now, we should, as America, be able to have most of our products being from in the country. If we can. Where we can, we should.
Absolutely.
Not everything. Obviously,
Not everything.
We don't produce tire rubber. We don't produce certain things that come from other countries because they're
Right.
just not here.
Right.
But for the things we can, we should.
Yep.
And as a government, we should probably limit on what other countries are allowed to sell here that challenges our
Yes.
own economy.
Yes.
Like, it's very difficult if I have to choose between buying something that's $200 that's Chinese made and something that's $600 American made.
Mm-hmm.
I can justify $50 more, $100 more, maybe $200 more, but like a $400 gap, it's difficult.
That's a lot.
So as a government, I think it'd be a good idea to create a higher charge for those things. So it's like you don't make it so enticing where it's competitive with your
Right.
own market. Because, I mean, what was it? I think you had the statistic. We wrote it down. It was like, how much is the percentage of stuff that we get from them?
Just a very small list of things that we were doing research on. This is as far as 2020 goes. It very well could have changed.
Yeah.
But in as of June of 2020, 97% of our antibiotics are made in China. That was just antibiotics.
Yeah.
There were prescription meds, pain meds,
Other things.
vitamins,
as well.
all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff made over there. High percentage.
Which, by the way, I would imagine they don't have the same qualities as far as like making sure their standards. I mean, we would assume that we should check that, but yet again, when someone else is making it who's
Yeah.
not exactly your friend, you really don't
Yeah.
know.
Probably not tip-top shape.
No.
As far as like a media outlet goes, or as far as like movies and things like that go, it says over 8,000 movie theaters and media platforms are censored by the Chinese government. So what they get to do is they get to get their grimy little fingers in there before anyone else gets to see any of this. Movies, TV shows, China gets to stick their nose in it and say, we don't like this because it badmouths us. It makes us look bad. Change that up and do something else. Make Russia the bad guys. Don't make us the bad guys. Because we're not bad. China's not bad. China's not bad.
Yeah.
China's terrible, if anybody doesn't know that. For a myriad of reasons. Another podcast. It's very, very short list. That was one of the big things.
Yeah, because the idea is you have to be able to remove people who don't have your best interest. You got to be very careful on how much of an influence they have on your people, your markets, all these things. Because clearly, like China having influence, or any country having influence with our media, our movies, all these things that are, things that program a mind,
Yep.
your mindset, all these things, like that affects how your kids are brought up. That affects their
big time.
perspective of I mean, it's very beneficial to put something out there that's going to look against your own country, like to make America seem like the bad guy,
Yeah.
or to make men seem like the bad people.
Yep.
And that only benefits, that other country by creating us to be weaker.
Yep.
But even when it comes to like when we were talking about products, I mean, I know 97% of antibiotics come from China, but even thinking like on a smaller scale, not so much internationally, you think
Yeah.
of Amazon.
Dude.
We all want the mom and pop shops to stay open,
Sure.
but they can't do that if we don't spend money there.
Yep.
And when we want to be able to go to a store, because hey, that guy's had his family business for 3 or 4 generations, even if it's just 2 generations or one, but we would rather save $5 on a $50 purchase and get it to our door the next day than to go out, go get it. Yeah, it's convenient, but every time you give up, something like that for the sake of convenience is always going to be the price ticket that they want to
Yep.
tempt you with.
Yep.
Because it's tempting when you don't have to leave your house and it comes the next day or 2 days,
It's
but
pretty nice.
but the sacrifice you make today is for what you'll gain tomorrow.
Yep.
What you don't sacrifice today, you sacrifice tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like when we don't make a stand on what we want, like if we want a different future, if we want to not have to worry about all these mom and pop stores closing, or brick and mortar stores even closing of big companies because of people like Amazon.
Yep.
Where these stores get closed because they can't stay open and compete to an online company.
You can't do it, man.
You can't.
It's hard.
It's really hard, but they wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't supply it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And there's you think of stuff like the pornography business, like that's like the biggest entertainment business above all professional sports
By far.
But that's because people spend money. But if they don't spend money, it wouldn't be a big business. Amazon wouldn't be, Jeff Bezos wouldn't be one of the richest men in the world if it wasn't for us fueling it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, it's hard to point a finger at the situation and treat these people as bad. I mean, they have their own agendas, I'm sure, but for things that we have a part in doing.
Yep.
So, I look back at history, I look at our founding fathers, and I see like the sacrifices they were willing to make over the comforts of convenience. It was convenient to be oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
It was convenient to be under the rule of England, but they chose to sacrifice it for freedom, for the future, because back then they thought of the future.
Yep.
They were us and us minded and people minded and future minded, versus society today is very quick, self-satisfying, and me culture. What's best for me? Do what's best for you.
Yep.
There's a level of doing what's best for you, but you got to do what's for others.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think I wrote it down. It was actually I put up my phone. It was Galatians 5:13 through 14. You, my brothers, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom in America is based off biblical principles, how it was intended to be. Maybe not how it is all today, but what those freedoms were intended to be.
Yep.
We're not free to do whatever we want. We're free so that we can do the right thing.
Yep.
And to do things for others. Our culture today is a very self-serving culture. It's not my problem today. I'll make it their problem tomorrow. You know,
which has built so much of the issue that we have.
So
nowadays.
much of the issues.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
With career politicians and celebrities and the everyday person, man. There's people taking advantage of the middle class, the lower class, the upper class if they can. They don't care. People are just all about themselves, and maybe I think there are still good people out there.
Absolutely.
Who are who want best for their family, and who want to do good things for the future of their family and for the generations to come, even if it's not for their family. Like, great example, U.S. soldiers, man. I put my dollar on a lot of those guys being super selfless, because they have to be. I mean, you wouldn't want to serve a country that you don't like if you don't like it, or if you do like it. Regardless, you wouldn't want to do that for no reason.
Especially our country, because you don't, unlike other countries, there's a lot of other countries that require 2 years of service after the age, was it 18, I think, or 16?
Military age is probably 18.
Yeah. I think Greece does it, Israel does it, a lot of places do it, Switzerland, I believe. We don't. It's completely voluntary, as of right now. Completely voluntary.
Yeah. And maybe I retract what I said. It's not if you like the country or not. Maybe the powers that be. That might be a little bit better to say. Because I think 95 to 99% of Americans that live here are to some degree patriotic. They're like, hoorah, go America, we love America.
Unfortunately, I'd probably say that number is lower now.
I'm trying to be optimistic, which really sucks to say that. But regardless, soldiers, people in the military, whether they're a cook or whether they're kicking indoors being pipe hitters, doesn't matter. They're doing it for a reason. They're serving their country, and they're trying to make it a better place for the people in the future. Sure, there's knuckle draggers, and there's guys that are just doing it for a paycheck and traveling the world because it's free because the government's paying for it.
They have nothing else to do.
Sure, yeah. You got nothing else to do. Hey, I'll enlist in the Coast Guard, whatever.
Yeah.
But most of the people there are doing it because they're trying to better our country. They're trying to protect the people that live here, and they're trying to make a better generation for the next. whatever that looks like. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Tip my
you
hats
know.
to those guys. Those guys are dope. All of them.
Super great respect for those guys. Even if some of them go there for themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still a sacrifice that I benefit from.
Yeah.
You know, that we as a country benefit from. Whether you're fighting just because, hey, I just like all this military stuff. I like shooting guns, and you know what? I like shooting, Taliban people. I don't know, whatever their own motivation is. Some people are
Right.
like that.
Sure.
Some people are crazy. Some people are super patriotic.
Shout
But-
out to all of our Marines eating crowns. Keep
Yeah.
doing your thing, guys.
But regardless, it's still a sacrifice that I'm grateful for because we get to stay safe because of it.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
But definitely a lot of the problems I see in society is a lot of selfish thinking. I mean, I remember there's the quote from, was it JFK? It was what is it?
Don't think of what America can do for you. Think of what
Yeah.
you can do for America.
Yeah.
That's butchering it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's somewhere
It's
along
not.
those
Yeah.
lines.
Ask yourself what you can do for your country. Gotcha. I think I got it written down. Let's just do it the right way and read it. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country, and that's just not a mindset we have anymore.
Nope.
As overall general majority of people back in those days, even in the 60s, things were changing, but there was still more of an overall general understanding of patriotism. It wasn't as mixed up with a lot of these different ideas. You know what I mean? I think part of those changes and ideas come from when you bring people into a country who don't fully love this country. They just maybe hate where they're at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I come from a immigration family. You know what I mean? My grandparents immigrated here, both sides. When people want to come here because they want to better their lives, and they respect here and love here because of it, all for it.
Yeah.
But when you just want to come here because you don't want to be at your place, but you really don't like being here either, I don't know. I got a tough thing with that because if you're not here to help America as well, and you're just here to serve yourself, you're not making America any better of a place.
Nope. Especially
mean?
if you're sitting there mooching off of my freaking tax and
Yeah.
using all the welfare,
Mm-hmm.
claiming you have 15 kids, you can go screw off and go back to wherever you came from. I got it.
If you don't love here, then you don't have to stay here. This is one of the
Yeah.
countries where you're free to leave.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And if you do that, please feel free to leave. I would
Yeah.
love that. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's just sad. There's so many broken systems on top of broken systems.
Again, bad leadership
Bad leadership.
and being selfish and pushing it off
Yeah.
to the next
And
person.
again-
Now they can deal with it later.
Men not doing what they're supposed to.
Yep.
Doing
Doing what they want. Again, very selfish minded.
Like-
Career politicians digging into everyone's pockets, just making
Yep.
a dollar just because they want it.
And everyday people who vote for these individuals just because of what they say that they're promised, right?
Yeah.
Versus
Oh.
actually making decisions based on what we need or what doing their due diligence rather than just surfacely voting or everyone's free to vote what they want. Like I said, everyone's free to do what they want, but doesn't mean what they do is right, and we have the freedom to do what it's freedom. I think I saw a quote that says freedom is not to do whatever you want, but is the freedom to have the opportunity to do what's right. You know what I mean? It's almost like love. What is love really? Love isn't controlling someone to make them do something. Love is to give them the opportunity to choose to love you or not love you, but for the hopes that they're gonna love you and do things towards you kindly.
Right.
That's why we're given free will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God gives us free will, not so we're robotic and do everything that He says. He gives us free will so we can be free, not to do evil,
Yeah.
but so that we could choose
Yeah.
to do what's right and
Right.
choose to obey Him and choose to love Him. It makes it that much more sweeter when things are done right.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess kind of to bring it all back together, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to touch on.
I think we can go through a little bit of counteracting things like that.
What we can do to kind of
Yeah.
help.
Right.
Yeah.
And it starts with you and I. Everyone. It starts with the individual because masses don't grow unless it starts with one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I buy everything local and like I go to the store and pretend that I look at every single tag that says "Made in China" and throw it over there and only buy the stuff that says "Made in USA." I don't. Frankly, I want to do it more. I would love to do it more. I'm okay with spending a little bit extra money to make sure that it's quality and make sure that it's made in this country.
Yeah.
because that is how you start changing the economy one bit at a time. I don't remember which guy, but a guy from Origin USA. This is not a sponsor, but if you don't know them, go check them out. They're super cool. Everything that they have is sourced and made in America. They make jeans. They make, like, which I've heard are the most rugged pair of jeans you'll ever buy. They make boots that are back ordered for like 4 years because they're incredible. But everything is stitched in the U.S. Everything is sourced from the U.S.
Nice.
All the cotton, all the leather, everything. Every single thing is sourced from the U.S. And the guy, I can't remember his name, was saying, like what I just said. It's one step at a time.
Yeah.
It takes one person to start making sure that they're sourcing the things from their country to make their economy better.
Yeah.
And in doing that, other people will follow you. And making the economy better is one step just for getting us to freedom, financial freedom again.
Buying American-made stuff is no different than buying healthy food.
Yeah,
Always is going to cost you more up front,
right.
but it's going to provide you more. It's going to cost you the least in the long run.
Yep.
You know, because eating healthy may be expensive. And you think, well, it's always going to be expensive.
Until
yes. But
30
when
years
you
down
don't
the
have
road.
your medical bills
Right.
because you're not paying
Exactly.
thousands of dollars for some
Yep.
stupid thing that you could have avoided and you're only 35 and you're dealing
Yep.
with gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you could have avoided by just eating right and living life to its fullest by feeling
Right.
good,
Yep.
being energized, being healthy. It's cheaper to do things right. You know, it's almost like the buy once, try once mentality. If you buy cheap equipment and it breaks, it's more frustrating than just buying the right thing you can trust and know it's going to do well. It's the same thing with business. You know, you buy quality things from American companies, and the actual profit of it, it may not be right away, but it's going to be over time, gradual, because if the negative effect is not right away and it's over time and gradual, the same thing's going to happen when you do things the right way.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It goes both ways. We're here where we are today, not because we made decisions and instantaneously the world changed.
Yep.
It was over time by
Yep.
little decisions that became little decisions and bigger decisions and bigger decisions. And it's no different with making the right choices. Can one purchase make a difference? It doesn't seem like it, but the answer is
No.
yes, because if everyone makes one purchase, I mean, everyone buys on Amazon, right? We made this guy like one of the richest people in the world because we decided to buy from Amazon. Each individual made a decision to buy products from that company.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you can, I mean, look at what we do at Target, right?
Ooh.
Bud Light, individuals chose not to buy. And even in a short period of time, look how much damage was done to those companies and they got
Big
their
time.
point across.
Yep.
Disney, you know, Target, you know, Bud Light. I can't think of these other people. I'm sure there's plenty of other people that people stop buying from. All these things because we don't want to support this.
Oh,
And
speaking of, one of them's Amazon.
what,
You heard they started the chip thing?
what chip thing?
Oh.
I have not.
Apparently, this is hearsay, so I don't know how true this is. Sorry to stop you dead in your tracks.
No, it's okay. Go
But
for it.
they're starting to put chips inside of you. Like, I don't know if it's your hand or your wrist, but it's one of the two. That you can just, like, swipe it over something, and it...
Oh, that they want to, that they're incentivizing?
I think they're doing it. I think they already started trial runs.
Oh, I've seen that where, like, I saw some stuff with companies trying it when they were doing the vaccine push.
There was that too, right?
Having chips where, like,
Yeah.
chips not as far, I mean, they probably can track you to a degree, but, like, purchasing stuff. That's the idea. That's going to be the future, right? You mean,
Well, I'm saying, I think they actually started it. Amazon.
Yeah.
I think Amazon actually started doing
but
it.
it's not an overall, it's now a normal thing for everyone to do, but it is in the, I'm sure, the starting process of making it normal. But,
That is a little scary. Don't
Yeah.
do that.
yeah.
Don't put nothing in you. You don't want nobody to track you, and you don't want Jesus to come back and say, you're not coming into heaven because you got the mark, buddy.
Yeah, the more you become, that may not be the mark itself, but the more you allow the idea, just like the whole vaccine thing.
Yeah.
Like, no, everyone say, well, it's the mark. The vaccine maybe wasn't the mark, but you're allowing the idea of this, of injecting you with something or marking you for the sake of, oh, you can't go here, you can't go there. You're feeding into the same mentality and the same agenda that will later on be used as we were promised. in Revelation that will happen.
Yeah.
If you say yes to it now, you're going to say yes to it later because it's going to be harder later. It's easy now.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And if you don't know what we're referring to, read Revelation in the Bible. It talks about the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
I'll use cash, thank you.
Yeah.
If we're still allowed to in the next 20 years, or if it's digital currency or not.
And I know the idea, too, what's going to be very easy to say is like, well, I get all these other companies I buy stuff from, so I'm already giving them money. What's the difference whether I stop shopping at this place? Well, everything you do makes a difference.
Yep.
You know, good and bad. Everything you do bad makes a difference. Everything you do good makes a difference. So, yeah, do you still have your phone with Verizon? And Verizon supports, I think they support the LGBTQ community. They support a lot of things. There's a lot of companies that support a lot of things that are big companies.
I'm sure everybody does to some degree. Nobody wants to get canceled.
Exactly. And the whole social score, and everyone's got loans from different companies that force them, whatever. But like, just because you may be doing something else that's not the best doesn't justify doing another thing not the best. If you could, like, if I can choose to, like, it's not as easy for me to leave Verizon, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not like there's really a whole lot better options.
That's true.
Which is on us as Americans to create a better option. Then there's some other like mobile companies, but I don't think they're as reliable as far as service, and I have to look into them. I like Patriot Mobile and some of those things I gotta see. But you know, like. But do what you can where you can. If you're not doing what you can where you can, then you're not really doing your best.
Right.
You're not liable for something you can't really do a whole lot with.
Yeah.
But you are responsible for what you can do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's not considered a sin to not do something that you're supposed to do if you can't actually do it. It's considered a sin in the Bible when you know what you ought to do and yet you still choose to disobey.
Yep.
You know what I mean? If you know, hey, I shouldn't be supporting this or going to this event, or buying from this company, and you're like, forget it. I'm just going to do it anyways. You know better, and you're still choosing to fuel what you know is not good. You know what I mean? And that could be, you know, I mean, even it sucks, but like Converse, they are more supportive of the Satanistic culture now, satanic culture, by putting pentagrams on their shoes for the certain editions. Dude. You know, Nike with the blood in the shoe. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not going to support those things. You know what I mean? And I'm going to try to not rep the brand either. And the stuff I do have that's of them, if it's like shoes, I'm not going to wear them. You know?
No shoes?
I don't even have Nike shoes anymore.
No, I mean, like, I thought you meant no shoes.
No,
period.
no.
Like, no shoe nation?
Unless every shoe brand was like that. But thankfully, that's not the case. But, you know, doing what you can where you can. You know what I mean? Like, go to Sportsman's Warehouse. I love Sportsman's Warehouse. But go there rather than trying to order something on Amazon.
Yeah.
Or go, heck, it even sucks, but go to Walmart, for goodness sakes, and buy something that's at a brick and mortar store.
It's an American company.
Yeah.
Walmart's an American company.
I think so.
It started by an American family.
Yeah.
It started in America. It's still in America. I don't know that all
the tricky thing, though, is when you buy from American-owned companies that source all their stuff.
Yeah, that's
still from China. Yeah. It's like you're just adding a middleman.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah, like
it's tough.
Even in our even like in the firearm industry, it's like, oh, veteran owned. Yes, but you may be feeding the money to the Americans, but they're using all the Chinese stuff, so it's not really solving the problem. It's just the same.
Owned by a vet instead.
Yeah, you're just putting someone in the middle, but you're not solving the problem. We want American-made stuff. Like, I don't care if some ingredients or some things are gotten from other companies, right, or other countries.
Sure,
you might have
fine.
to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not every single metal is made here that is needed for certain products. Now, if you're using that metal and it's now becoming a dependence on that country, that's a different story.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like the lithium battery situation. We make zero of those rare metals.
Zero.
So
none of them.
I wouldn't put too much of an importance on those vehicles because in our country, like, we shouldn't be using it for our military because we're dependent on now on other countries to supply us those needs. Versus, like, I'd rather a Ford F-150 or whatever, a Ford that's made here, parts are from here for the most part. Like the chips, the computer chips in those vehicles. We should have them here.
A lot of the parts are not.
They're
all
like
starting
Mexico,
to get made in Mexico.
But, like, for the most part, Mexico is probably a better ally than China, who currently doesn't, you know, I would prefer to deal with Mexico than China.
Yeah. Now they're starting to outsource all that to China. And then they're just shipping it to Mexico and then sending it to
like
America.
Fentanyl. Which is a whole other topic.
Exactly like fentanyl.
But, you know, And that goes to like where you buy from. Just because there's someone in the middle doesn't mean it's not still another source.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, do what we can where we can. You know, like we talked about in the last video, buy edge from someone local if you can. Go support companies that support what you believe, even if it costs you more.
Yep.
You know, go to Seed to Table, go to Food and Thought. You know what I mean? Buy from your local people.
Heck yeah.
You know,
If you've never eaten at those places, they got bomb food, like really good.
for anyone
food.
watching this who's not from here, Seed to Table, awesome grocery store / restaurant and entertainment park. And
Entertainment park.
that's what it almost feels like. You gotta. I mean, and listen, I was just there the other day, and you had someone giving a person a tour, like, "Oh, this is where you do this. This is where they have the drinks. This is it's what you do when you go to see the table. Someone comes in town.
Hey.
Oh, you got to check out this grocery store. You know what I mean?
Grocery store.
Yeah.
There's a stinking bar upstairs. It turns into a club after 10 and all that stuff. That place is dope.
Yeah, and shopping
Super
carts
cool.
with drink holders, and everyone's, you know.
Thinks of everything. Like,
Oh, yeah.
come on. The best part, my favorite part, is going in there and seeing snowbirds.
Oh, yeah.
And they will go to get a glass of wine or a beer first and then go shopping. And hey, if you run out, guess what? You can go get another one. You get as many as you want. Yeah, that place is awesome. They got everything in there.
But yeah, support companies that support your values.
Yes.
If you don't, then you're not being part of the solution. You're being part of the problem.
And if not all of their produce, most of their produce is all sourced locally in our city. As to my knowledge, most of it
For what
is.
they can.
For
Yeah,
what they can.
for
I
what
mean,
they
you
can.
know, you can't grow stuff from all the way up north down in Florida. I mean,
Yeah.
you just can't. Not everything likes the sand.
Yeah.
But there's huge farms that they source a lot of their produce from.
Even their own farms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all connected in one.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I mean, it's supporting local business.
Mm-hmm.
I like craft beer. 85 to 90% of their craft beer is made in Florida. Like a lot of their stuff is made. Well, I could be wrong about that, but a lot of them are made in Florida.
Percentage may vary, plus or minus.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, plus or minus quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm almost positive that they're all made in the U.S., which is really cool. I mean, just a small portion, but most of that stuff,
Yeah.
I would say, I would bet money that most of that stuff is sourced in the U.S.
Yeah, and that's how we make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then even on top of that, education. You know, doesn't mean you have to yourself teach your child as far as schooling goes. I think homeschooling's great. I grew up doing it. I know you grew up doing it. Because even if you're not going to raise your educate your kids in school, not raise your kids, but educate your kids in school, you know, be on top of it at least.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
what are they learning?
Yes.
What are they being taught?
Yep.
You know, if it's a Christian school, are they even praying together?
Yeah.
What is perspective of the giving of God?
Yeah.
What perspective are they giving of society around them? What are they allowing as normal? You know, like asking those questions, you know? It's almost like, hey, I may not be there, but I want to know who's there. What are they teaching? What are they talking about? Like, do as much as you can to be involved for what you can be.
Well, that's
You know
full
what I mean?
circle too.
Yeah.
That brings it back around to being a good man, being
Yeah.
a good father, and being a good mother. Both ways. Be involved in your kids' lives.
Yeah.
And you could have dads that live in your home that they're there physically, but they're completely unavailable.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
If you go through the education system, whether they're in a charter school or they're in a private school or if they're even homeschooled, doesn't matter. You need to be involved at some point to some degree, and it should be a lot, especially if they're not being taught inside your own home.
Yeah.
And even for virtual schools.
Yeah.
They teach them
especially
crazy stuff.
virtual school.
Yeah.
But you could be on the computer all the time. You got to be on top of it. You know
There's
what I mean?
some wackadoodle stuff that goes on there, but
Yeah. You know,
anyways.
but yeah, I mean, we should be, it's a disservice to ourselves. It's a disservice to our children. It's a disservice to our society and nation and the kingdom of God if we're not doing what we can to make things better.
Yep.
Are things promised to be bad in the future? Yes. That does not mean you just allow evil to run rampant. It does not mean you don't do your part.
Yep.
The devil wants to keep us complacent. He wants to keep us distracted. You know, he wants to keep us not focused on the things that are at hand and focus on the desires that are in front of us. Like it says in Galatians, you know, that we don't have freedom to just, fulfill the flesh. We have freedom so we can do what's right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's really hard sometimes to do that in today's society, especially if you live in a city.
Yep.
Like they say, you get caught in the rat race. It's easy because you're like, how can I make more money? How can I afford rent? How can I do these things? How can I achieve that comfort status within my family? But reality is, money is great, but it's not the most important. Education's great. It's not the most important. You know what I mean? The most important thing is to being the man or woman of God that you're called to be. And that starts in their children. That starts when you're adult, if that's where you're starting at this moment. You know what I mean? I'm starting this journey of recognizing these things. That's the most important thing. Doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank account. That's second.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Third. Second is your family. But first is being who God has called you to be and what he wants you to be, and serving him first, regardless of where that leads you. That might lead you to a place you don't want to be. That might lead you to a place you want to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily, God doesn't always have to lead you to a place you don't want to be at. You know what I mean? Sometimes he's leading you right to where you know you should be at.
Or where you need to be.
Or where you need to be.
Yeah.
So that's the utmost important. And that's really the solution to society, is doing what we're supposed to, that God has called us to do. And I know there's the idea that one person doesn't make a difference, but each person leads up to a whole society. We're all individuals, and yet we make up this world. There's billions of people on this earth. So that's a powerful one person when everyone's doing something. Just like in the beginning, I forget what it says in the Bible, but I know, it talks about where, through one man, sin entered the world. Something that changed the world for everybody, forever.
Yep.
But also through one man was it saved.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was reconciled.
Yep.
Through Adam, it was all kind of the original intention for how God wanted us to be on this earth was altered because of sin, through his disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
But then we were all reconciled to God, or given the opportunity for reconciliation, if we choose it, through one person, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
So one person does make a difference.
Yep.
There's a lot of one people out there who make a lot of an impact.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of individuals, because eventually people will gravitate to those leaders, and then that one becomes many. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It only takes just doing what's right, and eventually people will follow.
Yep.
And there might be people who leave, but guess what? If they don't stick around when you're doing the right thing, you probably don't need them anyways. So.
Yep.
I don't know if you got anything else to say. That's kind of what I got.
I'm trying to think of something snarky to say, but I don't think I got anything.
Well, we'll leave the snarky stuff for next week then.
Sounds good.
So, thank you guys. Look forward to seeing you, and not really seeing you, but being on here next week and getting to this again.
See you later.